This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth Community. Player 4 has entered the game.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Player 4 Podcast.
Not that it matters, mind ya.
I don't mind.
Is this the Eeyore cast?
I'm your host, Tristan, aka Shagrazir from the Rooster Teeth website.
I'm Malachi, aka Suki Kiba.
You guys are like super downers this week. Come on. We can do this. We can do better than this.
But we don't have Alex.
Yeah, and without Alex here, saying my last name doesn't make anybody angry. So I'm Joseph, aka J Dunlap. You can guess what my last name is.
Is it Joseph? Shoot. No,
yes, I am.
Oh.
My name
Is it Lap?
Joseph.
Lap
Joseph?
Dun Joseph.
There you go.
Lap Dun Joseph. I want to suck your blood.
Right then. Too much. Too.
Okay,
let's see.
Well, before you head into the topics, Tristan.
Okay.
So I was on my phone just now. I was on Facebook and I saw something regarding Alex, you know, the guy who is not currently here, so I get to embarrass him. And I've just come to a realization at just how much I have embarrassed him with the remix of his song.
The one that he doesn't know the words to, so he can't sing it anymore?
Well, because I remixed it.
Right.
So, for those without a frame of reference, if you haven't been following us since this summer, those who have will enjoy this story. Anyway, Alex made up a song one time this summer when I was AFK, and he was waiting for me to get back and just started singing a song about the Player 4 Podcast, made up a short little jingle. Well, me and my infinite boredom, since I was only able to go to one day of RTX this summer while everyone was having a good time, I sat down and made a remix of it with a beat and everything. So we played it at the panel.
Played it twice.
We played it at the beginning, and we played it once at the end, and everyone loved it. So I was on Facebook, and one of Alex's friends had tagged him in a post and shared it and said, "This never gets old."
Somebody we've never even met.
And then somebody commented and said, "I've never used the love reaction, you know, like, love, and all of that now. Haha.
Sad.
I've never used the love reaction until this moment, and it was very deserving," or something like that.
Yeah.
So Alex isn't here, but I have already embarrassed him.
I'm gonna love when he listens to this episode next week.
I mean, he already knows about this. I think he commented on it
Okay.
on the Facebook post.
Well, now it gets like double upped. All right, so we wanted to talk about a few things today. Joseph had a story he wanted to tell us that's full of stress, you know, which is great right at the beginning of a long week of work. We wanted to dip our toes into, we always do pop culture, so this time we wanted to talk about the pop culture and politics. Then we wanted to talk about some RT community collaborations and the cross-promotions of those works of the Rooster Teeth community. And finally, we wanted to talk about voice acting.
And it's going to be kind of a seamless little segue there, right? We're just going to sort of transition from collaboration into voice acting, since those are often the same thing.
They often go hand in hand.
Yeah, just like us.
No.
No, it's you and Rick that are going to cuddle while you watch Red vs. Blue.
According to me, I can't get Rick to commit.
What? You also moved, so I think there was a problem between you two.
I'll make it work.
So you guys want to hear my stressful story?
No, but it's on the topic list, so I guess we'll hear it.
I guess.
My abrupt transition made me laugh. I like me.
Let's hear your wonderful story.
Okay, so if you follow me on Twitter, you've already heard this story, or read it, rather, unless you read it out loud, which is weird.
Oh, I think I know what we're...
Yeah, I put this on Twitter because enough time had passed, it no longer stressed me out. So, let's get started with my stressful story, shall we?
No.
I am a professional piano player, and I was asked to play for a rehearsal and 2 performances of an event called A Night at the Theater over at the college where I teach. Basically what it entails is a group of 2 to 3 person scenes, except there was a scene from Holy Grail, the Bleeding Bunny, and the Holy Hand Grenade, and a collection of monologues and musical theater numbers, just solo songs. So my job was to play for those songs. I told the professor heading up the whole thing to send me the music so I could take a look. So I got a bunch of PDFs in email. One of them that I got an email from one of the students was a link to a download on a website that sells sheet music. And I had to have the professor explain to the student that because they had purchased the download, they had to be the one to print it instead of linking it to me because I don't have their account. So then the day before the rehearsal, I got the music for that particular piece. And then I looked over it the following day, and I saw that she had not given me page 8. It's only 8 pages long. It's Alan Menken's Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid. Alan Menken, who did a lot of Disney stuff, including Newsies, which Tristan has not seen.
Nope.
I told the professor, and then I went home around, 3:30 or so after a rehearsal, and then I didn't come back to school until the evening rehearsal. And it went well. It went swimmingly even. But that particular song was not hole-punched because I did not have the last page. And I did not want to take for granted that page 8 was the last page, because if page 9 was the last page and I hole-punched it with page 8 being the last one, then there would be a whole issue. Just trust me, if you're a piano player, you know that you have to kind of hole-punch based on exactly how many pages there are. At the rehearsal, when I was no longer using that piece, because that piece of music was not hole-punched, I put it on top of the piano. So bear with me here. This is all very important to the story. I knew that the final page was in my box in the music office. It's just that I don't currently have a key to the office. So the next day I went to the office, I got the last page of the music, and I hole punched and stapled and got everything ready for that song. So the entire folder was in order, or so I thought. So I showed up, performance at 7:30. I showed up 20 minutes prior, sitting at the piano, looking at everything going, I've got nothing better to do. I'm going to make sure everything's in order. And I'm sure glad I did. I was looking through the music, and I saw, Part of Your World, which was the second song, so it just so happened to be the second song I was looking at, double-checking, is, page 1, next page, page 3, flip, page 4, page 5, what is going on, flip again, page 2, that's not good. I have them out of order.
All wrong.
So I ripped the page from the staples because I had nowhere to put the staples. As I was reordering it, I looked over, casually glanced at the next page, 8. And I went, where are 6 and 7? This is when the stress starts. You think the stress has already started. No, this is when the stress starts, because the performance, need I remind you, starts in 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
So I casually, hoping nobody notices, I grab the 4 pages that are out of order, and I just tuck them under my arm, go across the street, and open up my office, and turn on the light, and look on my desk, and I'm digging on my desk. Where are pages 6 and 7? Where are they? Where are they? I've got all the homework I've been grading lately. I kind of put them in stacks off to the side. I look, there is not there. So I know the best way to utilize my time now is to go ahead and hole punch and staple what I need to hole punch and staple. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I go back to the theater. My face is probably white as a sheet. And I sit down at the piano, I put it in the folder, and I sit there and I think, what is missing? Okay, it's the bridge of the song, it's right near the end, and then it leads to the ending, and then around that time, I look up at the top of the piano, and in my head, I can hear the music on House whenever he has a revelation and music starts. And I remember, I had set the music on top of the piano, and just a few minutes ago, one of the theater professors had come over with his daughter, and they helped me reposition the piano at an angle so that the light behind me was not casting a shadow on the music. At that moment, his daughter had reached out and picked up 2 pieces of paper from the floor that had been under the piano and handed it to him, and he grabbed it and just went over and threw it away somewhere. And I went, I bet that's 6 and 7. I frantically went over to some students that were in the front room, and they said, well, he's up in the booth, the sound and light booth. So I was like, can you help me flag him down? So we flagged him down, and he came down the ladder, and he was like, what's up? And I said, those 2 papers, where are they? The ones you picked up. And he said, they're in the trash over here, and he handed them to me, kind of folded up, unfolded it, looked at it, and went, thank you. It was 6 and 7. So I went over to my
music guy. You'd think he would have asked if you still needed a score that he found.
I kind of thought that too. Like, why didn't he ask me about those 2 pages, whether I needed them or not? So I manually punched holes in the paper with my binder, folded the corners over, closed it up, got ready for the first song, and at that point it was 7:25, and the curtains opened 5 minutes later, and that gave me time for my heart racing to calm down and breathe and think about the performance. That is my stressful story.
It really reminds me of the sketch Losing Things by George Carlin. Where is it? It's got to be somewhere. Things don't just disappear.
That is sometimes my life.
I don't care if I ever find the thing again. I just want to know where the hell it went.
Reminds me of the $1 million but whenever you forget something, you realize that it disappeared. At that moment, it ceases to exist.
When you die, that's the first thing that happens. They open up the pearly gates in heaven, and give you back everything you ever lost. I love George Carlin.
Guys, I sat in my office for like half an hour today reading a Reddit thread of the worst brain farts people had ever had, where they went on autopilot and did the dumbest possible stuff, like a kid who was doing night shift at McDonald's and his parents wake him up for dinner and they ask if he wants to say grace. He bows his head and says, "Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order?" By far, and then I'll let us move on. By far, the best one takes the cake was a guy who had recently moved, and his two houses were about an hour away from each other on opposite ends of, I guess, a city like Austin. And he got in his car and started driving to work, probably was on the same highway that leads to his old house, took a turn that led him to his old house, thought in his head, sure is nice to be done with work and be going home now. It's early morning. He gets to his house in suburbia, so the front door is unlocked. He walks in, pours out the coffee in the sink, ignores the fact that the furniture doesn't match, takes a shower, and in the shower realizes the shampoo doesn't smell right.
What?
Have you ever had an instance of that for yourself?
No, not that bad.
No, not that bad.
Yes, I have gotten on the wrong road, going to a place when I was supposed to be going to a different place just because I go on autopilot. I've done that. But no, I've never gone into a place I used to live, having forgotten that I no longer live there, and then started using the facilities.
I did that with a vehicle when we were kids.
Yeah, there were plenty of those stories.
I've never lived in a place where you don't lock your doors.
Same here.
Yeah, that's the one where you're thankful that they did just leave it unlocked and there's not somebody in the house who's about to catch you in the shower. Because you think, the explanation would be, I'm sorry, brain fart, I used to live here. Now put yourself in the shoes of someone who lives in the house. Someone in the shower and they say, sorry, brain fart, I used to live here. The answer is, get the heck out of my house.
Yes. It's a little, that'd be a little hard to take. All right. So Speaking of doing stupid things, I think we're about to say something stupid. We're going to enter that dangerous realm called politics.
Tristan's soapbox. We got trouble. It's Trump. That starts with T, that rhymes with P, that stands for politics. So what is your soapbox, Tristan?
My soapbox is that we try to, kind of be up on pop culture happenings with varying degrees of success. And I thought, well, something that's kind of big that's going on right now is that the presidential elections for the U.S. are coming up. And I figured that some people, especially some of our transnational listeners, would be kind of interested in our thoughts on that, at least. And I wanted to give kind of as much of an unbiased, and I'm using the word unbiased a little bit loosely, opinion on what's going on. Just sort of talk about what the state of things are without saying, well, this is who I'm voting for and this is why. We're not going to go down that route. We're just going to say, here's who's running and here's what it's been like living in this country.
Yeah.
So,
while
Tristan,
this is going on.
How much time have I given you for this segment?
5 minutes.
5 minutes on the timer. And it will be shorter because, little ums and clicks and pauses get cut out. But 5 minutes on the timer.
5 minutes are on the timer. So, we here in America have a democratic republic and supposedly a two-party system. At least that's what everyone believes, so we only know or hear about the Democratic and Republican candidates for president, who this year are Malachi.
Oh, Malachi's a candidate?
Wait, what?
Yes,
yeah.
I'd vote for him.
We got Trump and Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton would be, if she were to win, she would be the first female president. Donald Trump, if he were to win, would be the first celebrity.
I always get these mixed up. Hillary's the Democratic one?
Yes, Hillary's the Democratic nominee.
Trump is the Republican.
Trump is the Republican nominee.
I'm terrible. I always get them mixed up all the time.
It's an easy mistake.
The Republican National Convention Committee is pretty much denounced him at this point, but they're stuck with him, so too bad. At this point in time, we have had two, and I can't believe it, we have had two presidential debates. And I wanted to touch on this because in a debate, a supposedly unbiased person is supposed to give questions, topics, basically, for the candidates to respond to. They'd say, so, something that's bothering the people of the nation is climate change. You know, if you were to be elected president, how would you start to formulate a plan for climate change? And then each candidate would have 2 minutes to say, here is what I would do. Here is, how I would handle this. Here's who I would assign to do this, that, or the other thing. And they would talk about their plan of action, what steps they might go through to start this. And it's supposed to be, here's what I would do. Okay, thank you. And next person, here's what I would do. This year, it's been, here's a controversial topic. Let's talk about it. And each candidate, and neither of them is exempt from this, even though, people will say one does it more or less than the other. Instead of talking about what they would do, they talk about why the other person would be bad at it. That's not a debate. By definition, because debating comes from the linguistic roots in Latin, and therefore, like the Roman forums, they are using a strategy called argumentum ad hominem, which is where instead of talking about the topic that's supposed to be debated, you're saying everything that's bad about your opponent, and that is why any argument they make shouldn't be listened to, because they are a bad person, not because their argument is bad. In a debate, you're supposed to put forth an argument, and the other person is supposed to argue against that argument, not argue against you as a person. And all we have seen so far is them arguing against each other as people. And there are people out there who will say, well, Hillary stayed on topic more. It's like, yeah, that's probably true from what I've listened to. She stays a little bit better on topic, but she is not exempt. She goes after him near as much as he goes after her. And it's a zoo, is the best way I can describe it. We've had 2 of these, and I watched the social media feeds as they come out during and after, and everybody says, a lot of people seem to feel the way I do, is when are we going to actually have a presidential debate? Because these have just been presidential candidate bicker sessions.
Presidential apes throwing poo.
Yeah, name calling and.
Hey, that's my D&D game.
God, not that big in. So you want to know the political geography of this country, of this country right now, is that people believe we have a 2-party system, so they look at it like they only have 2 choices, and right now nobody likes either of their choices, but they're going to vote for the one they hate least. And my personal opinion is, why vote for the lesser of 2 evils when you could find something that isn't evil to vote for? I mean, we're not, they don't want you to know it, but we don't actually have a 2-party system. When you go to the ballots, you can vote for anybody. There's a blank line that you can fill in with a name, and if they get enough votes, you can vote for yourself. Not that that would do you much good, because unless you've been campaigning, you're not going to get a lot of votes.
Part of the problem actually with write-ins is you'd think that would be true, that you could just write whoever it is you want, but the states will only approve a certain amount of candidates for write-in. For example, the only candidate actually approved for write-in in all 50 states is Gary Johnson, and a few of the others are approved in only like 30 to 40 states. And it becomes an issue where you want to vote for someone that's not in the 2 parties, but you're not being given the option to do so.
It's absolutely silly. I mean, so people think we have 2 parties. We actually have currently 4 major parties. We have Democrats, the Republicans, the Green Party, and the Libertarian Party. And all 4 of them have nominees that you can vote for in this election. So all those people out there who are saying, can I have a third choice? You have a third choice. And I have a friend who I talk to who is very rigidly one party or the other. And I say, well, why do you want so-and-so in office? And I say, well, I like this, and that, and I hate this, and that about their opponent. And I go, okay, but there's this, and this other thing that's bad about the one that you like. He goes, yeah, but, and I go, yeah, but you could vote for this other person, say Gary Johnson. And he goes, I would, but if I thought he had any shot of winning. It's like, and if everybody who said that actually voted for him, he'd probably win. And that is time.
Was that your timer?
That's my timer. It's
well,
going off to let us know.
It also adds to the comment to where people are like, my vote doesn't matter. That's the same concept.
Yeah. So that is the end of our political discussion.
Can I add one more point to that?
Can you do it in less than 10 seconds?
I can try. I have led guilds in the past in MMOs, and it's hard to get members without having members because everyone's convinced, well, I mean, if I stick around, then I'm in a guild with no members, but if more people joined. Same thing with building a YouTube channel. It's easier to get views when you have views. Same thing when it's voting for a third party. You're more likely to do it if you think everyone's doing it.
I agree with you, and here's my opinion on that. Vote for who you think will do the best job. The only wasted vote is one for whom you don't really believe they can do the best job.
And I have another point all about, electoral state and how, in essence...
I could talk for hours about the electoral college and how
electoral college and swing states and all of that. And
no.
So we won't get into that, but needless to say, the system is designed in a way that we are constantly having to choose the lesser of two evils because then they can fix the election, but now they're terrified that... Okay, never mind.
No more politics. RT community collaborations.
Yeah.
And cross-promotion.
The topic here for our primary discussion is the idea of collaboration within the Rooster Teeth community. And what is the state of the Rooster Teeth community currently? Because we talked about over a year ago when this website changed right before RTX and the aftermath of that, the fallout of that, if you will. No pun intended for Fallout coming out last year.
I would say that the state is fractured and fragmented due to having one of their main intercommunication devices largely altered to the point where it's near impossible to allow news of anything going on to trickle out.
Yes, and it's sort of gravitated towards the hubs of content creators within the community. We, albeit a small one, are a hub of content creation, and we have our group of friends that they have their own content that they create. Andres with his comics, Stuart does streaming, and there's a whole bunch of other people that we're sort of a network of content creators. So collaborations, artists, I can't forget artists. Artists are very important, especially in the Rooster Teeth community. There's so many talented artists. For example, Deco, he works on the comic with Andres.
Mishu, Naomi C, there's tons of them. But
it occurs to me that in the past year, things have gravitated towards just a network of content creators. Big Bite's another example of content creators that have really just gone big with it. They actually have writers, and they've actually broken away from being a magazine to an actual website with news stories, as well as animated series that they're working on. So collaborations in that kind of environment would be vital to keeping that aspect of the community that's not simply, I really like Ruby. I really like Red versus Blue. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not a community. I pose the idea to everyone listening and also Tristan and Malachi for discussion that perhaps collaboration is the way to revitalize the community.
I think it's a great idea, honestly. Get people working together and rebuild, this community intercommunication idea. One of the biggest problems that we had was that before, friends of friends could see what was going on. So if you were following a person and they liked something that somebody else was doing, you got to know about it because you were following that first person. Now, if you're not following somebody, you can't see anything going on in their life. So the trickle out of information just stops at the people who are already following you.
I can't even list how many people I met that way, Tristan. I don't even know how many of you guys on the podcast I would know if it weren't for that feature.
So that's kind of like a Facebook thing, right? How if you like something, even if it's someone that you don't know.
Yeah, that's how Facebook works now, but I believe that was originally based on Reddit.
I don't know. I never really used Reddit ever.
It is a Facebook feature, but also Facebook has tagging as a way to put something on somebody's friends' feeds.
But that same concept though. The you like someone completely different, and then you see that through your friend, and you can't see that anymore.
And that was a vital feature.
You can't see it anymore.
It was a vital feature to growing our podcast originally, and for everyone growing their content creation was the idea that people would stumble across it.
Was there any particular reason that it just stopped? Was there a change?
They did a complete overhaul to the website, and that feature didn't get carried over.
Oh, okay. So it's just something that was neglected when they did their overhaul.
It hasn't been built back up yet, rather. They've been building up lots and lots of things, and they say that, yes, we hear the complaints about this or that, or the requests for this, that, or the other thing, and we're getting to those. They just haven't occurred yet.
So it's cross-promotion that we've moved on to as content creators. I know that we at P4 Podcast have really focused on that. We brought on Andres when he was coming out with Sleeping Lions, and we actually brought in Deco as a surprise guest as well for that because he happened to be awake in the UK. There's other content creators that we've spoken to in the past. I remember that was something I did with 5-question interviews prior to P4 Podcast. It was a focus on important people in the community, people that I wanted to help promote, and cross-promotion is really going to pick up the slack there. And the issue currently is simply that because of the decline of usage on the Rooster Teeth site itself, there really isn't any cross-promotion. It's more like, well, I better get on there and make a post about this thing I'm doing, and then get on there and see that there's a direct proportion of likes on the post to people that were involved in the project, we'll just say.
Yeah.
I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying that that is something that we at P4 Podcast are going to put a bigger focus on in the near future, which is collaboration and cross-promotion to help grow the community back up and focus around not just Rooster Teeth, who we love dearly, but also each other, because we are all growing and maturing as content creators. A lot of people who joined the site were teenagers at the time and have grown, and their skills have grown. Or I joined in college originally, and I've grown as a person. I'm completely different than I was. But as we all grow, we acquire these skills, and we build as content creators, it's going to be very helpful.
So cross-promote. If your friends are doing something cool, talk about it so that word gets round.
What was that going to directly move on to, Tristan?
Voice acting.
Yes.
People who are streaming and podcasting out there, like us. And there are other people who are developing new projects, animations, and the like, who are looking for voice talent. And so they need to get the word out that they are looking for people to help them fill roles.
I know with the animated series that Big Bite is putting together multiple of them. It's just hard to do plural of series. They are occasionally looking for voice actors, and I know I made it known to them when they started working on Nihilo that we were all interested in voice acting. But anyone out there who's looking for voice actors, look no further than your content creators, look no further than your podcasters, ourselves. I know that the folks over at Glibshark did a machinima that they featured a few years back at the Rooster Teeth Community Content Creators Presents or whatever it was.
Well, not look no further, but, ask them first.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for people with an experience in front of a microphone, that would be the first place to go. The podcasters, the community. And if you recall from the panel that I did at RTX a year ago, there are well over a dozen podcasts in the Rooster Teeth community, and probably more now than there were then. I think I had 10 on the list that was just people that responded to my feeler. I know there's a lot more now. Look for experienced podcasters, and we actually have developed our voice acting skills by doing our table reading segment, which we did at RTX this summer, and we invited people to kind of be on the table read with us, so there's also that collaboration aspect. And I know, Tristan, you're very interested in doing voice acting. Alex is as well.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. I've worked on a couple of projects way in the past, but I've had nothing going on in a while, and I do a lot of role-playing where I get to use some fun voices, but I'd like to help somebody with a project if they've got one.
I've also enjoyed Malachi's voice acting skills. It's Tristan that I give the hardest roles to, because I know that he's really going to throw himself into the role, such as Kelly from Shoes being Han Solo, or Mark Hamill's Joker. So, as we round the corner and head back to home for this episode, I was going to bring up that I did actually audition for some voice acting yesterday. It's a group of people in the Magic the Gathering community that volunteer their time to put together ebooks based off of the stories of Magic the Gathering, because there are rich tapestries of stories in the lore of the game, which I've talked about in the past. And this new story is having to do with the new set, and they just sort of follow the lore that gets posted on the mothership, as we call it, Wizards of the Coast's website. So they put a feeler out on the Reddit for Magic, and I went and looked at it, and there's a website. I did not know this. Did you guys know this? There's a website for Is that your timer?
That's the end of the episode timer.
Okay, so there's a website where you can actually have casting calls for voice actors. So those of you listening who want to do collaborations, there is a website. And I went there and I actually put up a recording of the voice acting I did for a machinima a few years back, like in 2011 or so. And it was where I actually did some character voice acting, which I actually excel at character acting. So I actually auditioned for a bit role there, and then today I was looking through the list of roles for that particular ebook, and I saw there was a role for a male child. So I went and grabbed my son, Michael, who was playing with his Legos, and I said, Michael, come here. You like a Johnny, right? And he's like, who's a Johnny? I'm like, he's Elspeth's friend, and he likes the Planeswalkers and magic. So I showed him some pictures, and he was like, oh, that's cool. So I said, okay, say this line. A Johnny's back. That's the only line the character gets. We recorded a few times. I put it up there, and so far it's the only legitimate audition. There was like a teenager trying to be a kid, but the website is called Casting Call Club. If you are looking for voice acting gigs, then you can put a demo of yourself up on there, and also you can show what microphone you have on there, and maybe even a headshot, which is not necessarily relevant. Casting Call Club. That's also where you can go to get voice actors. So Tristan and I have talked about projects.
Headshot up there.
Yeah, you don't need your headshot. It's not like a play or a short film or anything like that. Or
there are always those stories about people being rejected for voice acting because they're ugly. It's like, seriously?
Yeah, I know Tristan and I...
You could look like a spawn from heck and still have a good voice.
Voice of an angel.
I know Tristan and I have talked about projects in the past that we wanted to get off the ground that would require voice talent, so maybe that's somewhere we would go as well. So Casting Hall Club, go there. Look for ways to promote and collaborate with your fellow content creators, because we're all in this together. I'm not going to bust out in song, but we're all on the same team. We all want to help each other succeed, and that has been one of the many goals of P4 Podcast. And with that, I bring it back to Tristan and Malachi.
P4 Podcast, we promote the community.
Just like Red vs. Blue, which I will be talking about season 13 next week.
Whoa! Because you didn't finish it.
Well, yeah. And
That's why it's next week.
I'm also going to be more coherent and actually have a good description other than my rambling that I do.
We love your rambling, Malachi.
I feel like an idiot. Hey,
what?
That was uncalled for. That was uncalled for.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. You. Yes, you. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. Good night.
Here's for Alex. Good night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, yeah.
Hashtag. Yeah, I'm going to do Tristan. Hashtag goodbye.
Is that what I sound like?
Hashtag goodbye. I can't really do a Tristan voice. I can do Hiccup, which Tristan seems really suited for as being Hiccup.
Yeah, you'd probably just make me hiccup.
I could do Arnold. I could do an Arnold voice.
Oh, that's Alex's thing, though.
Yeah, Alex likes to do Arnold, and he turns German.
You should do John Travolta.
I don't want to do John Travolta. He's old and gross.
Wow.